ladies and gentlemen, we are back for another exciting podcast of the Nation80s podcast. And a few things before we get started here. So, number one, if you're looking for some of our old episodes, you'll only probably be able to find them on YouTube. So, because we've been off of the podcasting game for quite some time, the ones that were on iTunes and probably the ones that are on Spotify have been deleted. But don't fret, because going forward, I'm working to get the podcast put onto multiple platforms all at one time. And there's some things now since we've been out of it for a while. Like, for example, looks like Lisbon isn't as the premier site for posting a podcast anymore, and a couple other sites have come out. So definitely looking forward to that. Me and Michael are also recording on StreamYard right now, and we're just doing it for the audio. But when we get back to video, this will probably be the platform we move to, because we tested it out earlier this week, and it looks like this is more the ideal situation, so we can put up slides and do things of that nature. So that's going to be cool. And the last thing before we get started here, on our YouTube channel, Michael has already posted last week's episode. And thanks, Mike, for doing a phenomenal job on that. And if you don't know, my boy Mike is here. Mike, how you doing?
Yo, I'm doing good, Rodney. If I look at the temperature right now, it's 4 degrees here in the Midwest, and even though I am freezing my nads off, I'm ready for this next episode. So I'm excited. I'm excited.
Well, I will try to bring you as much sun and sunshine and sand from Hawaii in a box
Mm-hmm,
to help you
mm-hmm,
out. But,
mm-hmm.
it's in the mail. It's on its way. Good luck to you, my brother. So we're going to change up the format this week. And what we're going to do this week is we're going to talk about the things we saw, maybe the things we read, and the things that what was the other one I was going to say? The things that we watched. Seen, watched, same thing. But we're going to talk about the things that we've done this week, or that we enjoyed this week, something to do with the pop culture. We'll keep it more to the comic sci-fi world, because I have watched quite a bit this week. And I know me and Michael, before the mics got turned on, we decided that we can go ahead and finally talk about Spider-Man Far From Home, because actually, was it Nowhere From Home?
Yeah, the No Way Home, or
No Way Home.
yeah,
I always
yeah,
get those confused.
yeah.
But so because Michael has now officially seen it, Michael has also seen Internals. I saw the first 3 episodes of Peacemaker, and we'll get on to the other things that we've discovered this past week. So first things first, Mike, let's talk about Spider-Man. I will let you start first, since you've seen it more recently than I have. So go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, so I took the family to go see Spider-Man No Way Home, and this was our first time back in the actual movie theater. And I said this off mic or whatever. I kind of got a controversial view about this. This movie was so hyped up, and I gotta say, and when I went to the movie theater, we went to a movie theater that served dinner. So I paid a pretty penny for this. And coming out that movie, I was like, I don't know, it's worth the pretty penny that I paid. so, uh, and given that I just saw Eternals, I'm kind of at odds right now. Like, I'll give it a few days to digest, but I'm kind of at odds right now. I don't know if I liked Spider-Man better than Eternals. I think maybe my initial thought is that I liked Eternals better than Spider-Man, and that sounds crazy because Spider-Man was so hyped up, and it did not disappoint. We saw the rumors. We knew that they were bringing in people from the previous Spider-Man films with Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, and they did. They brought the villains in. They brought Doc Ock. They brought the Lizard. They brought Shocker and Sandman, and it did not disappoint. And then you got to see Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield in their respective Peter Parkers, and so it was an entertaining movie. It was very entertaining. I don't know if I really cared too much about the movie as far as importance to the overall MCU universe, just because they basically talked about the multiverse. And if you've watched any of the Disney Plus shows like WandaVision or Loki or What If, they already talk about the multiverse, and they've been prepping us for the multiverse. Even Endgame preps us for the multiverse. Even the second Ant-Man movie preps us for the multiverse. And so I don't know. I guess I was hoping for more from Spider-Man, hoping for something better than let's get all the villains to the Statue of Liberty and take them all out and send them back to their respective worlds. And it wasn't as, I guess, deep as I thought it was going to be. Don't get me wrong, it was a good movie. I know people are going to crucify me for this. It was a good movie. I did enjoy it. I just wish it was more. I just wish it had been hyped up the way that it had, because people were talking like it was the end game of Spider-Man, of the Spider-Man movies. And I didn't feel that at all. I felt that it was just another Spider-Man movie. And other than the first movie, I don't know. I don't know if I really enjoyed it that much. I enjoyed it. Let me take that back. I enjoyed it. It was a good movie. It was very entertaining. I just don't think it was as significant or as important as the Eternals movie. We already knew the multiverse was there, but the Eternals introduces a whole new equation to what's going on in the MCU. And I thought that was more important. I thought, Spider-Man No Way Home was the formula, pure and simple. Eternals wasn't. It was to a degree. But what they did was introduce something that I was like, oh my God. And the post-credit scenes for both movies, so I'll say this post-credit scene for Spider-Man, I had to YouTube because we had to get back to uh, uh, Jen's parents' house to grab the baby because the baby was acting kind of crazy. So I didn't get to see the post-credit scenes at the theater. I had to YouTube it to see them. And the first one or the one with Venom, okay, whatever. And then basically the trailer for the second Doctor Strange movie, which looked pretty cool. I'm actually really excited for the Doctor Strange movie, especially since it's going to have Scarlet Witch in it, which we, I guess, again, kind of knew from the TV show. So yeah, I mean, and then compared to the post credit scenes from Eternals, Eternals had some pretty good ones, some revelations. So I'm pretty excited. The movie was good. Spider-Man was good. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't what I thought it was going to live up to.
So two questions I have. Number one, do you think your theater experience has been hindered due to the fact that you've now seen mostly a majority of new releases at home, and maybe the theaters is not just a priority for you anymore? So maybe that's why at least the thought of going out and paying for whatever you paid, and don't get me wrong, the theaters is expensive no matter what. But do you think that hindered your experience any?
Probably. I mean, I probably spent about $100 for
Mm.
three of us to go watch this movie. That's tickets, that's food, and I had a drink. And I had to think, I'm like, did I have more than one drink? No. So yes, was it $100 movie? Hell no. Endgame would have been $100 movie.
Right.
So it makes me wary, I guess. I am completely down, and this is speaking purely from the perspective of a father with kids and a wife, and the convenience of staying at home, being able to pause a movie, being able to eat whatever you want to eat at half the cost, and drink whatever you want to drink at half the cost. Um,
Mhm.
don't get it twisted. I love the movie theaters. I don't want movie theaters to go away. I love the movie theater experience. I don't I would watch the second Doctor Strange movie in theaters, if it was only in theaters. I don't know. I might have felt this way if I saw, say, Shang-Chi or Black Widow or Wonder Woman or any of the other comic book movies that came out, if they were in the theaters. I don't know if I would have had the same, or I would have had the same reaction. To be honest with you, those are movies that I could have completely watched at home and been fine with. So did it affect it? I'm sure it did.
Okay, so
But
then I guess my second question to that would just be and I'm just asking out of curiosity, but do you think because we're not sure where they're going with the upcoming MCU as far as the architect, that we're anticipating these movies to give us a better sight picture these days? Because I feel like I understand what you said about Spider-Man, but I think before Spider-Man, I think between that, the TV shows and everything else, we're like, okay, who's the, Thanos was the big baddie, and we saw it coming to that because of Infinity Stones. And I think there's still a massive question mark over where the MCU is going from here on out. Do you think that's why it might be a little bit harder for these movies, because you're still wondering what they're overall trying to go for?
I, you know what? I don't know if I think that. I think that what this is what I expect. I expect
Hmm.
them to do Secret Wars. This is what looks like what they're doing. It's going to be
Hmm.
Secret Wars. You're going to have all these alternate universes colliding together, and it's going to come to the end of the universe, and they got to figure out a way to do it. I don't know if you're going to see one big bad like Thanos. I will say
Hmm.
that at the Eternals gives you Andy of what one of those big bags is going to be for sure. Um, but I think if any, I'm more interested in learning about how they're going to introduce uh, the Fantastic Four and the X-Men. You know, it already looks like we've got the multiverse, cool. You guys are clearly going with the Secret Wars um, story here, or some version of it. Okay. How are you going to introduce the X-Men? How are you going to introduce the Fantastic Four? And those to me are the big questions. Like, okay, when are you going to introduce them? When are we going to get the mutants in the MCU? Okay. Eternals kind of answers that question, sort of, to a point. Um, Spider-Man just further pushes along hey, these are alternate universes. And the thing that I think kind of scares me is that Sony is going to continue to make Spider-Man movies, and not necessarily Spider-Man itself, but all of Spider-Man's rogue gallery, all of Spider-Man's allies, they're all getting movies.
Hmm.
And presumably they're all going to be thrown into the MCU at some point. Okay. We already know Morbius is going to be in the MCU. Venom is going to be in the MCU. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Miles Morales is going to get a live action into the MCU. And so to me, it's more of a question of how are they all going to put this together? Because this is a huge undertaking. Okay. It took 20 movies to get us to a showdown with Thanos, right? So
Hmm.
how many movies is it going to take us to really do this
How much
whole
longer must I stay alive for all of
right?
this?
Seriously, like how we're doing the multiverse and they're
Right.
colliding. Okay, how do we solve that problem? And how many movies is it going to take us to get to that point? Okay, 20 movies,
Mm.
20 movies to get to Thanos. Okay, I might be in my 60s by the time we conclude this. And then once that's concluded, are we done? Is the
Well,
MCU
you know
done?
what? I will kind of just put out that, I think compared to before, Marvel was unsure what was going to be a success or not. right? And then like I remember like freaking Iron Man, I think wasn't even Disney yet or anything. It was still a part of another studio. So they came together a little bit later in the game. And then so now that they got everything under one umbrella, it might be a little easier, but I would just say my concern is just oversaturation, right? And that's only because of the fact that just kind of like with zombies, vampires, and everything else that's came around, there's this massive explosion of everything having to be superpowered on television, and then it hits this pinnacle, and then it's like downhill from there. It's almost I would almost say kind of like what happened midway through the newest Star Wars trilogy, where it hit that so much crap came out that everyone was like, you know what, I am so exhausted of this. And it almost, I won't say it took a reboot, but then everyone was just like, I need something else other than Luke, Han, whoever else in that universe. I want to see what else is out there and all these other things. So I'm kind of curious if that's going to happen more than I am about if it's going to take 20 movies, because I'm a bit concerned that now we got TV shows connected to the movies that who's going to stick around for all of that, you know
Right. Right. Yeah,
um
I think you're exactly right. I like I said, I Sony is the main concern for me
mhm,
because Sony holds all of Spider-Man.
yeah,
Okay. Disney's basically just renting Spider-Man, and they're constantly trying to, renegotiate contracts, whatever. But Sony holds the high ground, and they're going to
mhm,
continue to make whatever movies they're going to make. And Sony's movies don't have the greatest track record. Okay.
no,
Venom, I still haven't seen the second Venom. I
don't
know it got
bother,
reviewed
don't
terribly.
bother.
And I love Hardy. I love Tom Hardy. I think he's an amazing actor, one of the greatest actors of our generation. Uh,
Mm.
I just don't like the way that he is portraying Venom. I don't know if that's a writing problem or whatever. Uh, the first Venom
I
movie
would say
wasn't
I just hate the symbiote more than I hate Tom Hardy, because they're trying to give him redeeming qualities, and he's a murderer, right?
right.
Eddie Brock is a murderer. Like, come on. Like,
Well, and so
I would have rather
and
it
but
been Flash Thompson. Then it would have made more sense. Like,
well, and so that's
I,
the issue, right? Like you're
mhm,
given this Eddie Brock that is like, oh, I don't have any confidence and I don't want to say anything, but then I've got this symbiote who wants to just eat brains and this
right.
and that, and you really haven't built it up. So like Eddie Brock now in the comics at least is a good guy, but
Hmm.
it took him what 20, 30 years to get to that point. Uh,
Yeah.
he had to go to his trials and tribulations to get to that point, and now we just have this Eddie Brock who is sort of he's an anti-hero. He's sort of a good guy. He's kind of got the Punisher vibe going on, and so I don't know. I don't like the way that the Venom movies have come out. Um,
Hmm.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was a a gift. It was a miracle. I should say gift. It was
Yeah,
a
that's true.
miracle. It was a
Yeah.
miracle. That was probably the best Spider-Man movie I've ever seen. Uh,
S-
no doubt, it was probably the best Spider-Man movie I've ever seen, and I can't wait to see the second one. Um, and so with that said, they got Morbius coming out. I'm hoping Morbius is okay, somewhat
mm.
decent. But then, like I said, they've got so many other movies planned, Black Cat and all these other people coming out. Uh, I don't know.
Unless something's
I
changed, Black Cat got canceled.
I think well, so I guess they still have or they've re-engaged Black Cat. I can't
Mm.
remember the other ones that they've re-engaged. But I'm just nervous that Sony's throwing too much out there. If it were just Disney and Marvel, I would be okay because I think Kevin does a great job with planning all this stuff out. Uh,
Hmm.
but when you throw Sony into the equation, say Kevin wants to plan out 20 movies, another 20 movies. Okay.
Mhm.
It looks like Sony wants to plan out another 20 Spider-Man movies. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I
They're gonna
don't
ride them
know.
coattails until the well is dry.
Right.
One
Right.
way or
And
another. Because
so,
I don't know if you saw the headlines, but the fourth Spider-Man movie's already in production.
yes.
So,
Yeah.
you
And
know,
and so
they're
how long is Tallinn going to be doing this? He's already said that he doesn't want to spend the next 30 years playing Spider-Man, right? And so
yeah.
it's like, okay. So yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that I could see oversaturation being a problem. I'm going
Mhm.
to trust Kevin Feige. I'm going to trust Kevin Feige because he hasn't he's done nothing but good things for us so far. I'm going to trust him and his plan until something bad happens. Okay. Until they start going to all DC and Warner Brothers on us and just trying to throw stuff out there to see what sticks. Uh,
Yeah. I don't you know what? The
I
cool
don't know.
thing
We'll
is
see.
the cool thing is I don't think he'll do anything like that because they're very well calculated. Their brain trust that they have behind there. I know Brian Michael Bendis used to be a part of it before he went to DC, and it's a handful of Marvel writers who are sitting in that brain trust that actually have put a good game plan together. So I don't think like I mean there'll be those one shots like Shang-Chi that came out in Eternals just to introduce new characters because if I remember correctly, there's some more coming down the pipe. But the other side of it too is like I think Jeremy Renner is done because he's 50 years old. How much more of these guys are like, hey, you know what? It's a wrap. I'm done. And then do you recast Captain America, or do you just say, I'm done? Or are you just try to bring in some new blood, new characters, and then not go back to these other characters? So there's a lot of question marks, and I think that is what's going to make things a whole lot more complicated. Is I don't want to say complicated, but the thing is, before, like I remember me and you talking years ago, and they were like, "We're bringing out Guardians of the Galaxy." It was like Guardians of the Galaxy, and we're just like, "This is going to be bad.
Right.
This is going to. We don't know what's going to Groot, Rocket Raccoon. Like I don't see how they're going to make this work." And then me and you came out
Hmm.
the theater, and I remember I told you the first time I had a really bad headache, so I didn't enjoy Guardians the first time. But then when me and you went in Qatar, uh, it was an amazing movie. And that was it's just one of those wins for Marvel. But I know that they're looking at other properties, going, okay, like, all right, what else can we do like Guardians that's going to strike a nail out there? We can sell some merchandise on. I remember Squirrel Girl was supposed to get out there, and then that never hit off the ground. And then there's a few other shows they've tried. We won't even talk about the humans, but you know how that goes. But since I did talk about Guardians of the Galaxy, I got to talk about James Gunn. So let's get into the things that we watched this week. And so, Mike, outside of Spider-Man, I'm going to just talk about me watching Peacemaker today. And so HBO released the first 3 episodes of Peacemaker with John Cena. And all I'm going to say is if you've been looking for a show like The Boys or Deadpool, this is it. And matter of fact, in the DC universe, then this is it, right? And you could kind of add Harley Quinn to that, but that's animated. Let's just say live action. A live action show that's like Deadpool and The Boys. Well, this is it. Because Peacemaker is a whole fucking trip on this show, and I'm just enjoying the ride as he goes along. Like James Gunn, I didn't even know James Gunn had this show in his corner pocket. I didn't know it was being developed or any of that stuff. And then I'm looking at it, it's like written and directed by James Gunn, but it has him, it has his trademark all over it with the music, the characters, just how everyone acts, the dialogue. But it's so much fun. It's so much fun. But there's a handful of shows that I don't mind watching with my daughter that are rated R. This ain't it. This ain't it. I will not be the one to say that like my daughter is mature enough to watch something like this. But they're having nothing but fun playing in that wheelhouse. And if there's any show that I could recommend for someone to watch, if you're missing The Boys, it would be Peacemaker right now, because I believe they follow those same two characteristics. What
So
about
is it
you, Mike? Oh, go
the
ahead.
violent language that you won't let your daughter watch it, or what is it?
It's a bit of the
So
language and the
is it the
violence together.
well, you won't let your okay.
What,
And so is it like
Mike? You seem to
so
be
I
breaking
haven't
up a bit.
seen
So
Suicide Squad yet.
okay,
Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, so I haven't seen Suicide Squad yet, and I'm wondering if this is I've heard Suicide Squad was a violent movie. Is it like super gratuitous violence that you're like, oh my gosh, like Full Metal Jacket, or is it more like Kill Bill violence?
I would say that are we talking about Peacemaker or are we talking about Suicide Squad?
Both.
Okay, Suicide Squad does start off a little Kill Bill-ish in the beginning, but then towards the end there's some fantasy violence that um I don't know. I felt like I'm still fairly weird on how I show my daughter things, but my daughter has seen quite a few mature movies, and the way that because it's a whole bunch of DC superheroes, they don't go too far with how badly they act, even though it's a rated R movie. Now, when it comes to the what is it? What do I say here? The troops or whatever, those guys get it left and right. But then you're kind of like, okay, I get it. Peacemaker, on the other hand, it's more of the fact that, remember International Women's Day and Deadpool? Some of that
Mm,
stuff is happening in Peacemaker, right?
mm,
And so and when I say that, I'm just talking more about just sex than I'm talking about anything else. And
okay.
so that and I know that sounds weird that sex is more the critical point than violence, but how it's portrayed sometimes is I'm not ready to answer them questions. So
So what were your best
go ahead.
parts about not Suicide Squad but Peacemaker?
Peacemaker. Some of the best parts was Peacemaker being introduced to the new team, because since you haven't seen Suicide Squad, I won't ruin it for you. But one thing that comes from it is a partial few of the team from Suicide Squad goes into Peacemaker. You'll be able to tell from the promo picture, but those guys come in there. So that just the humor about certain situations. John Cena is a funny dude. I know he's like a big buff WWE wrestler, but he can still play a funny character. And then you got your boy who played T2 in Terminator, and in
Oh,
there playing the father of Peacemaker. And
oh, okay.
now they got him saying some pretty spicy stuff, but it makes sense for what I think they're getting ready to do with it. But they haven't, like I said, we've only seen the first 3 episodes. They're not like an hour long. They're about between 45 minutes to like 38 minutes from what I remember. Right?
Okay.
So they were pretty fast. But you can see that Peacemaker is dealing with some stuff. There's some other surprises that I won't say since the show's still fairly new, but I'm looking forward to seeing what's coming next. I'm super excited. And it makes me wonder, is James Gunn going to stay in the DC wheelhouse? Because I think he's having a blast. And this show to me seems like something, again, it's something that was perfect for him. And I don't know what he's got coming down the pipe. Think I think after Guardians of Galaxy 3, I would feel like Warner Brothers might throw him a US Mint to really play more in the DC's wheelhouse.
Okay. So do you think that Peacemaker I have no idea where DC and Warner Brothers are doing with their universe. I don't know if they even have a universe now, right? I
I don't
mean,
think so. I really don't
after
think so.
right, so after Justice League,
Hmm.
all intents and purposes, there's nothing after that.
Nope.
So you go from there. Like, what's the point of these movies then? Are they just all one shots? Like, we got the Batman coming up. All right, we just had the reboot of Suicide Squad, and
Hmm.
now we've got Peacemaker, and so we've got Black Adam coming out after that. Are any of these tying together?
You know what? I'm not gonna lie to you. I hope not. I'm really fine with them being their own thing because when they tried it, it didn't work. And so I'm just of the impression that you know what? I want to see y'all just make good singular movies first before anything. Because other than them finally putting out Snyder's Justice League and finally kind of righting that wrong, um I and then Suicide Squad being good. If and let's put it like this, if only 2 out of your 6 directors are pretty good, I don't think anyone's going to watch it. Like yes, there's Aquaman was decent, but I mean, Aquaman wasn't that good. So I mean, it does like Fast and the Furious does. It has some great fight scenes, but after that, it's a wrap. So I personally would just say let them stick to their own realms at the moment and then try again later. Because right now, I think personally they rushed trying to be like Marvel and they failed at it
Yeah,
when they
absolutely.
could have took their time and did it right. Instead, they took what should have been a great Batman versus Superman movie and turned it into basically the prequel to the Justice League. And it made no sense when they could have just did that completely different.
Hmm.
So yes, I really hope that DC is keeping like if you make Suicide Squad and then have a few things branch out from it, cool. And then yes, you can mention the Justice League, but don't bring the Justice League into anything else. Or if you're going to mention, because I think they're going to start trying again soon for another Superman movie, get a good Superman movie off the damn ground. Don't try to don't try to instantly say, okay, now we need to go put Batman in it. No,
Right.
let's let's focus on the main character. And I hate that Henry Cavill had to go through that. Like, if Henry Cavill was given the opportunity to truly stand on his own, it would have worked personally to me so much better. But you know why people love Henry Cavill now? Because they know how much he got screwed over by Warner Brothers.
Right,
Point
and
blank and
the worst
simple.
part about that is that he wants to finish the Superman
He wants
arc.
to finish what he starts.
Yeah,
Yep.
he wants to finish it. He wants to flesh out that character. And me
Yes.
personally, I love Henry Cavill as
I
Superman. I
agree. I
I love
agree.
him, you know.
I-
So yeah, no, I okay. So yeah, Peacemaker looks like it's a good show.
mhm.
I'm definitely gonna check that out. I mean, I love John Cena. I mean, the dude, he's not to the level of The Rock, at least right now, but he's pretty damn close.
Yeah, and he holds
Um,
his own. He holds his own
yeah,
in anything I've seen him in. So I'm
yeah.
pretty
So
happy with that.
I'm down to see him. James Gunn. I mean, whatever the guy touches is gold, right? I mean, it
Hmm.
just like you mentioned before, Guardians of the Galaxy was such an obscure concept, within Marvel Comics, and he made it mainstream, and now they're
Hmm.
popular.
Bro, remember
Uh,
that soundtrack? Just even the
yeah,
soundtrack alone with everything else, it all worked. It all
for
worked.
sure, for sure,
Hmm.
and it seems like he did. I still haven't seen Suicide Squad. I am going to see it, but it seems like he did the same thing for Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad
Yes.
was, I don't want to say more obscure than Guard of the Galaxy, but nobody was really rushing that to get Suicide Squad.
Not
And
after
now,
the first
right, and
drama.
now Suicide Squad's got their own damn video game coming out.
Hmm.
And so, kudos to James Gunn. Uh, Warner Brothers, if you ever get your your crap together, just get the right people. Just it starts at the top. You got to get
Hmm.
the right people. All right, you got
Yeah.
to get people who care about DC, about the stories. Once you get the people that care about that stuff, like you look at Kevin Feige, he cares about it. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And he hired people, going down. You look at um, his name completely skips my mind, but when he created Iron Man and he created the Mandalorian, John Favreau. Uh,
Yes.
we hire people like John Favreau who have that kind of vision. When I think of John Favreau, I think of all these like rom-coms, that he's come
Hmm.
out with, or things like I Love You Man, like,
Yeah.
but he knocked it out the park. I love John Favreau, you know.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
But you know what?
if
That's what's crazy, because I would assume with a great writer like Jeff Johns that they would have got this all together. But I also feel like, compared, and I don't know this, but compared to Disney and Marvel, I feel like Disney said, "You all orchestrate the universe, and we'll follow your plan." And I feel like someone is stopping the DC brain trust from doing what they want to do, because they want to add the theatrical movie, whatever you want to call it, element to it, and they're both colliding with each other. And then so
I
we
think
get
you're
the
exactly right. I
yeah, and
absolutely agree with you. I think that Disney is like, look, uh, we know we have something. I'm gonna let you create it. We're not gonna micromanage. Okay,
mhm.
do what you guys got to do. Whereas Warner Brothers is like, look, we got something. People are idiots. They're gonna watch this no matter what.
And we got to hurry
So
up and catch up. We
yeah,
see what
so
the
we're gonna
competition is doing.
so we're gonna put as many movies out there as we possibly can. And I don't like the way you're doing this, so we're just gonna do it this way. And then 10 years down the road, we'll do a Snyder cut.
Yeah.
It's like,
Absolutely. All right, Mike, for the sake of time, is there anything this week that you watch other than Eternals and Spider-Man that you wanted to talk about?
so I'm gonna take it to just the comic book side of it real quick because uh I've been reading this book by Scott Snyder, and it's called Nocterra. And man, I plan to do an episode about this. I want to just do like not even necessarily a review of it, but like an impressions of it. Uh, so Nocterra is not a DC thing or anything. So Scott Snyder is the writer for this story, and if you don't know, Scott Snyder is one of those guys that was mainstream Batman. He came up with some great Batman stories, and he decided to do his own creator-owned comic. And I want to say it's with Image. I can't I can't remember, but uh, it is written by him. It's got art by Tony Salvador Daniel, and it's just a great story. And so I'm only halfway through the first volume, but basically it's a post-apocalyptic world where it's almost kind of like the movie Pitch Black, with Vin Diesel, and you're on a planet and you've got these monsters coming after you, and the only way you keep them off of you or keep them at bay is with light. Same kind of premise here. Okay, we're on the planet Earth. There's an event that happens. The sun gets completely blotted out, and the only way to keep monsters at bay is by making sure you're lighted, making sure the vehicle that you're driving is lighted, and you have these small towns or small villages that are completely lit. And in order to get from one village or one town to the other, you have what's called ferrymen, and this story particularly circles around a character named Val, or Valentina Riggs. And so she basically drives a big rig, and she transports people from one place to another. And the opening issue or the opening comic to this, she's driving, and then all of a sudden one of the people in the big rig kind of freaks out and opens the door, and then this monster comes in, grabs her face, and basically kills her. And then they're trying to fight it off until they get to the city that's just completely lit up by light bulbs and LEDs and everything like that. And so the whole story is a struggle of her trying to basically cure her brother, who uh, is kind of turning into one of these monsters, and trying to find out what started this event, and then how they can, uh, how humanity can come back from this darkness that's around there, and it's just a really great story. I think that Tony Salvador Daniel, he does a great job with the art. I mean, the art is detailed. It gives you a great environment. The action that you see in these panels are just amazing, and give you a real sense of danger. Like I said, it kind of reminds you of the movie Pitch Black, and it's not all action all the time. Scott Snyder he does a great job with um, going from one story to another and all the in between stuff, and letting you kind of feel what the world is like, and not just for the main character, but for the villains and the side characters and just the world in general. So I'm excited to finish this book. It's one of these ones that I'm kind of going into this kind of thing where some of the famous writers that you see at Marvel and then you see in DC, I am looking to see what else they're doing. Okay. Like Scott Snyder or like Jonathan Hickman. Like I've been reading East West by, Jonathan Hickman. I still haven't finished it, but it's another great story that you would never have read if you didn't know him from Marvel and his Fantastic Four run or Secret Wars or Avengers. And so, or even, more recently, I guess, X-Men. So, Scott Snyder's Nocterra, I believe is on its second volume right now. It's pretty good. I would check it out. It's on Amazon. It's on Comixology. It's a really, really good comic.
So is Nocterra a mini series or a limited series, meaning that it's going to be cut off after like issue 30, or is this a ongoing monthly for the time being?
Right now, it looks like it's ongoing. I haven't seen any kind of timeline for it, and so let me preface this by saying, like, I'm only halfway through the first volume. There is a second volume. It looks like it's going to be ongoing, and so
The reason I ask is because I don't know if you know or you remember, Scott Snyder has a exclusive deal with Dark Horse that's going to be taking effect soon, where he's able to like set up his own universe. And I don't know how that works now for him. Does that mean he stays with DC, he does his Image stuff, and he has Dark Horse stuff? But like, for example, now from what I'm seeing, a lot of writers have been given exclusive deals to kind of start their own universe or whatnot, or just their own title of books under the perspective company. And I think Dark Horse is taking full effect onto that, because you know how Marvel is in DC. They're not going to they're going to say, oh yeah, you want to do your own books? Do it under Vertigo. And Vertigo ain't been the same since the 90s, so
right.
I'm curious to see where that's going, but I'm looking forward. I'll definitely take a look at that. The other thing I was going to ask, I know you already have it digital. Are you getting off of Comixology Unlimited, or did you purchase it?
I actually ended up purchasing the first volume. I
Okay,
don't know if it's on Comixology Unlimited yet. I'm sure it will
I
be at
doubt
some
it.
point.
Yeah.
But I that's how much I really like this story.
Mm,
I was like, after I read the first issue, I was like, oh, I just whatever, I'll just buy it. It's not,
keep
when you
snoozing in
buy
there.
it on digital, it's not super expensive. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I only bought it the entire first volume for $5. So it's not super expensive. Um, but it is one of those ones that it's like, oh man, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
There's
that's awesome
actually
too. Because I was gonna
well,
say Tony
and
Daniel and Scott Snyder did Batman together for a bit, and then I remember Tony Daniel did X Force back in the day when I was coming up. So, I know he's a phenomenal artist.
and so apparently, I don't know if this will ever come out because it's all rumors at this point.
Mm.
But there's talk about doing an adaptation for Netflix for this show
Ooh,
or for this comic book series. So
I can see it. I mean, it's the
I
next thing
I
for
would
him.
check it out.
Yeah, I'm definitely all
Yeah,
over that.
I mean
All
it's
right,
good.
so
It's really good.
Cool. So I'm going to mention, I haven't been reading it, but I've been listening to it on Audible. I've been listening to Neil Gaiman's American Gods, right?
Mm.
And if you don't know, American God, from the beginning of me knowing about American Gods was there was going to be a show on Stars or Cinemax. I don't recall what channel it was on. I believe it was Stars. And it had the infamous producer Brian Fuller doing the show. If you don't know who Brian Fuller is, he used to do Hannibal back in the day. So because of that, I was super excited to jump onto the show. And I did watch it. I watched the first season. Brian Fuller got fired for the second season. I wasn't in the situation like I was before to watch Stars, so I didn't catch up to it. Plus, you know how it goes. More stuff comes out and it slips by the wayside. But a couple months ago, I had added it to my library in Audible, and evidently I used the credit and paid for it back in the day as well. And so I was reading another book for a book club, and I was after that I was like, I want to find something else to listen to, and I went across American God. So I'll give you a quick synopsis of it real quick. Shadow is an ex-convict who is released from prison 3 days early when his wife Laura is killed in a car accident. Shadow is devastated by her death and is distraught to learn that she died alongside his best friend Robbie, whom she had been having an affair. He takes a job as a bodyguard for a mysterious conman, Mr. Wednesday, and travels with him across America, visiting Wednesday's acquaintances. Shadow learns that Wednesday is an incarnation of Odin the Allfather, and that his he is recruiting American manifestations of the old gods whose powers have waned as their believers has decreased in numbers to participate in a battle against the new American gods, manifestations of modern life and technology, such as the internet, media, and modern means of transport. Shadow meets a leprechaun named Matt Sweeney who gives Shadow a magical gold coin after Shadow beats him in a fight. Shadow later tosses that coin into his wife's grave at her funeral, inadvertently bringing her back to life as a semi-living revenant. That all sounds nuts, but when you read it, it it makes sense. As you look at as someone who doesn't really follow religion these days, it makes kind of sense as if you look at the things that we follow and believe in now, like a guy could in this book in terms could be YouTube, or it could be the internet, or it could be some of the things. It could be Fortnite at this point, just because it has a large number of followings and how many people believe in that compared to the old gods that have came and gone in history. Because yes, we hear about the all-encompassing God, but I guarantee you there are gods from medieval time that no one talks about anymore. Are the gods of Egypt that were once praised over and over again, sacrifices were made that no one no longer talks about. And so now we have that collision between the two in this book. Now, the downside of this book is 19 hours because Neil
Mm.
Gaiman really when I say he's a writer, he's a writer. He puts everything on the page. It's very descriptive, and I don't feel like, oh, when is this book going to end as I read it? But it is a long book. So, for example, someone like me who has about half an hour to an hour, depending on traffic, ride to work and back, I am going through this book quite fast. But for someone who might be interested in picking it up, they might be a bit disgruntled about how long the overall book is. But I'm super excited to finish this book because I just like the concept of it. I never got into Neil Gaiman back in the day when he was doing Sandman and a few other comics, but I did love the first season of American Gods. And just because I'm not watching it and going for the book, I'm excited to go through the book and use my own imagination of what the conclusion of this book is.
Yeah, I've never seen American Gods. I've heard people talk about it. I actually have a coworker who loved that show and wanted me to watch it. So I never did. I was super intrigued by it. Neil Gaiman, I have been listening to Sandman on Audible because he has a whole the
That's
Audible
right. I
did
forgot about that.
a
Yep.
dramatized version. Uh of Sandman on there, and so I'm I'm still working my way through that. Uh, and I don't know. I'm pretty sure. So in your job, you can't have your personal devices with you, correct? Is that
Nope, cannot.
okay? So I'm the complete opposite. 19 hours is perfect for me because all I do at work is listen to audiobooks, and
Mm,
this sounds like it'll be something that's right up my alley. And I'm gonna actually check this out because I like Neil Gaiman. I like the way he tells stories, and like I said, from what my coworker has talked about with the at least with the TV show,
mhm,
it looks pretty good. And I know the TV show had some issues. I knew it had some
mhm.
issues with the cast, with the management per se.
Yeah.
So I knew they were having having issues, which is too bad. It's too because
Yeah, because a
uh
lot of actors and actresses bailed on the show after Brian Fuller left, and then there's
yep,
some a bit more controversy with Orlando Jones when he left,
yep.
and after that, I never was interested in going back to it because, again, if you I don't know, did you ever see Hannibal back in the day?
Yes, loved Hannibal. Loved it.
Okay. So again, if you watch the first season of American Gods, it's done by the same person that did Hannibal. So it has the same vibe to it.
Okay.
I don't know if season 2 or 3 have that same vibe, but once he exited, you're just like, okay, this is just a sinking ship. And I looked before we started recording, and it did end in 2021, but they literally dragged themselves over the finish line.
Yeah.
So it's maybe after I finish the book, maybe if I'm interested as white noise, I'll have it play in the background and check out parts of it. But I'm not really interested in the show anymore compared to the book. So as we're coming to the conclusion of this show, let's since we've been talking about movies earlier today and everything, let me ask you, going forward, matter of fact, in this pandemic world and everything that's been going on, do you see yourself going to the theater more often, or do you consider that the pace that you're going to still dial back the pace and just use it for select releases?
Yeah, I think I would like to just dial it back and more do it as far as it's got to be something that's hot. That
Hmm.
I'm just absolutely I don't care. I'm gonna go watch this movie regardless. The unfortunate thing is that it's not gonna be like that. HBO has this thing now where they'll release movies to the theater, but they're also released on streaming. Okay, Disney doesn't do that, um, or at least they
Well, heads
stopped
up,
doing it.
heads up. HBO is getting ready to end it. They
Oh,
will end
okay,
it in
all right.
February.
So
Yes.
so at that point, because people are starting to go back to the movies, that's
Hmm.
cool. I'm not going to be frivolous with it just because of my family situation with health and everything, and just trying to keep. I got a new baby. I got uh, a wife that's immune compromised. I'm not too. I'm not trying to go to the movies all the time. And when I do, it's not going to be a normal movie theater. It's going to be a movie theater that's like a restaurant, pretty much.
Hmm.
Because we go to restaurants, that's fine. And if I go to a movie theater, it's a movie theater that I know people are going to be spaced out at, and they're not going to be. And it's always going to be like on a Sunday or something like that, a matinee. It's not.
Yeah.
It's never going to. I don't know if I don't know if I'll ever go to another opening night movie, given the state of play that we're in right now. I don't know if I'll
Mm.
ever go to an opening night movie. I just don't. My situation seems a little too risky for me. Not for me personally, but for the people in my squad. This
Mm.
just seems a little risky, and I don't want to risk that. And so Eternals I had to wait for. Shang-Chi I had to wait for to come out on Disney Plus. And that's fine. It is what it is. We don't have to, we're a society now that we want everything now. Amazon has made us do we got to have it now.
Mhm.
So I don't mind waiting. Spider-Man came out, and I it took us what 1-2 weeks to go watch that movie. And then it was on a Sunday, as it was a 4 o'clock show on a Sunday afternoon. Excuse me, Jesus. And so future movies, I would really love to see the new Doctor Strange movie. Am I going to see it opening weekend? Probably not. Will I see it the next week or the week before that or the week after that? Yeah, probably. It just will be a matinee, and it'll be at the Wheaton Studio Movie Grill, where I can order or not a hot dog, but I can order a hamburger or chicken tenders or a pizza or steak, and then order a nice drink. So yeah, I don't foresee myself just doing movies like I used to do it, which is kind of sad. I'm really hoping that we get out of this pandemic situation where we can all feel safe, because back in the day, we used to go to the movies every weekend, um,
Hmm.
but that's just not the case now. And I think that when you can stream movies at home, we have a popcorn maker. All right, I have a 65-inch 4K TV, um, with pretty decent sound system, uh, and I can pause. Okay, somebody wanted to go to the bathroom. Cool, pause. Jen, when we went to go watch Spider-Man, she uh, she missed Aunt May dying. Because she went to the bathroom. All
Yeah.
right, and so had we watched this at home, she would have missed it. Pause. Pause. That was
Yeah.
that was the best part of the movie to me. And
Yeah.
so I just, yeah, I don't know, man. It's just in today's world, it just seems like you got to kind of pick and choose what movies you want to watch, and it's hard to do that. If you asked me a couple of years ago if I would have gone to see Black Widow in the movie theaters, I would have been like, yes, let's go watch it.
Hmm.
Or even Wonder Woman. I would have guaranteed you before the pandemic hit, before the shutdown hit, I would have watched Wonder Woman in the movie theaters. Man, I'm so glad I didn't. I'm so glad I didn't. I'm so glad that I didn't spend $40 on tickets to
Mm.
go see Wonder Woman. Because I would have been pissed. I would
Yeah.
have been pissed off. Oh my God, that was such a bad movie. Uh, so I I got to be really picky about what movies I want to watch in the movie theater.
You know what? I don't even know if it's even considered picky anymore. It's just the fact that, uh, just like with anything else, and it's not. I've been very fortunate just because of my position. I haven't had to deal with too much of this, but now money's tight, so going to the movie theater is just not. It was already becoming tight just because of the prices at the movies, right? And then after COVID, and then the situation that put people in particular jobs and stuff like in, money is tight just going to the theater and spending $100 when you can just wait 30 days for it to pop up at home. And kind of the same thing you said. I got 65-inch television, sound is good. My 4-year-old isn't going to be running around the whole theater or spilling her popcorn in the theater or whatever the case may be. She can do that at home. And then the other side of it is kind of going back to everything. You know what? The bigger thing is whether it's the MCU or a lot of movies now, there's just no rush for me to go to the theaters. The movie I was excited for was Spider-Man, which is rare because I've never been the biggest Spider-Man fan. But for some reason it hit my heartstrings a little different than the other movie. And I don't know why, but it just did. And I think it's just a culmination. It's the same way I kind of felt about Endgame back in the day, just
Mm.
because overall, as someone who's loved this genre for so long, seeing some of the Easter eggs and all the things being recognized on the big screen is just cool. Even the Charlie Cox thing was super cool. I squealed like a little schoolgirl when it happened. You know, and that's what I love about that stuff, right? It's some of it you go and you scratch your head and like, what was that? Why did I spend 2 hours watching it? And then there's some other things you go and you're like, man, you know what, it was so cool to see this finally come together, because there was nothing worse when you would have two properties that you know would go so well together, but because they're owned by two different studios, you knew you weren't going to see it on the big screen, right? And those walls have slowly fallen as well, which is cool. And so, like, yeah, there's been rumors that like Reed Richards is going to pop up in Doctor Strange and a few other things, and that's going to be exciting. And when it comes to the theater, I used to be that guy Thursday night, 10:30 at about 10:30 or 7, whatever, whenever everyone else was asleep. I used to roll to the movie theaters because I used to just love to go decompress by go checking out a movie. It's how I saw Deadpool. It's how I saw, I believe, Batman v Superman and a lot of other movies, right? And yeah, now you got to bring your A game, or you have to be unique for me to go to the theaters and see it. That next amazing sci-fi movie that I know it's coming, oh, I can't wait to go see it in theaters, right? I'll be there opening day. But Doctor Strange 2, I'll probably be waiting 45 days. Not
Right.
because I'm thinking that it's going to be a bad movie, but just kind of like you said, my wife is auto-compromised. They're going to want to go and see that with me. And I'm not going to go by myself for that type of movie. And I used to love to take my daughter to movies. Me and her used to just go together and have a father-daughter time situation. But you know, it's just one of those things. But before we end this, if you hadn't seen it or you haven't heard the news, a Moon Knight trailer with it's coming later this week. Well, next week. I can't wait. Who in the hell thought that we would see Moon Knight on any type of screen? And so to see him, and then just to think about it, because those universes are together, we could see him on the big screen as well in whatever upcoming movie. We don't know. He can definitely show up, right? I'm super excited for that. And I love Oscar Isaacs. I love him so much. He's done some of the most coolest movies. Like his repertoire between Mechana are in Star Wars, and that's just to name a few. Dune, like all the sci-fi stuff that you would ever want to be in, he's been in it. And so I'm super excited to see him play Moon Knight. I think he's a perfect guy for the role. I hope they give it a better budget than they gave Iron Fist back in the day. So we'll see what happens. But Mike, unless you have anything else, do you have anything else?
Yeah. So as far as things coming out to keep an eye out for, I know you haven't seen it yet. I think you should check it out. It's called Resident Alien. It's on Sci-fi. It's got Alan Tudyk on it. Season 1 is already over. Season 2 starts January 26th, and it's a great show. It's super. I don't know how to explain it. It's a comedy. It's a dark comedy. It's a sci-fi. You know, Rodney had mentioned in the previous episode he's more of a sci-fi person than a superhero person. And I think I'm kind of the same way. And this is a show that's right up my alley. I think this is a show that people should really check out. I really enjoy it. It's also got Nathan Fillion in there. It's that Firefly not camaraderie, but oh gosh,
It's like
my
the
words are always
reunion that you want.
yeah.
Yeah.
So like, so Nathan Fillion's in there, and he only does a few cameo spots, but Alan Tudyk is a great actor, very underrated actor. He's like the white Samuel Jackson. He's in everything. And so really great show on Sci-Fi that I think that everybody should check out.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. And I've been meaning to check it out. And there's some sci-fi and some more stuff that I've been meaning to check out. But we'll talk about that more in the future. But until then, this has been the Nation80 podcast. We will see you next week as we keep on trying to get our rhythm back. We're super excited to see you. We're going to get these episodes posted on all your favorite platforms and on YouTube. And you'll see some gaming streaming, and you'll see some of Michael's great work on the editing side as well. So stay tuned to the Nation80 podcast, and we'll see you soon. Bye.